Oh, good morning, everyone. Great to see you. Forgive me for being a couple minutes late. Traffic was really, really bad. So I'm just getting set up here. Hey, good morning, Shawana. You're first. John Crowder, you're second. Woohoo! Yay. I hope all is well with you guys. Give me just a moment to get set up here. I need to calm down and because I was running, making sure I got this. Yep, I want to have this coffee. I love my coffee. She brews. Haha, it's funny. I like that, Shawana. All right. Let me get to where I was hoping to get to, and then we'll do a welcome to everybody. There we go. I think I found it. All right. Okay. Well, this has been an exciting week. Lots going on in my world. In Ontario, our school year, public school year, starts right after Labor Day. Where I believe in the U.S., it starts mid-August or towards the end of August, I think, something like that. So it's kind of, where's your prize? Yeah. You know what? How about I prize you with a really good cup of coffee? You go get it, you brew it, and you drink it. So that's for you. That's your prize. I love it. So anyway, this the fall season gets pretty busy in September. Lots of stuff going on. I saw a post last night. Some of you know my good buddy Reg Shute. Reg Shute speaks at my church often. He's traveled to conferences with me. He lives about an hour from me here in Ontario. He's also on my board of directors for Growing in Grace Ministries Canada. Good friend. He put a post up the other day, and it was referring to God's justice. Actually, let me go find it. It's easier to read it because I thought it was a great post, and I reposted it on my wall, my personal wall, that is. Let's see here. Where did I put it? Oh, come on. Should be right there. Where did I put it? Reg, haha. Okay, here's what he wrote. I thought it was kind of cool. It's sort of long, but not long. I've seen long in Facebook posts, especially when people write a book. Don't do that, people. Nobody reads that. Come on. At least put it as a document so you can read it later. Anyway, here we go. The mindset that the whole Bible is current and relevant for everyone causes so much anger. So let me start again. The mindset that the whole Bible is current and relevant for everyone causes so much anger, hatred, and discord. We are living in the new covenant, people. The old covenant became null and void when Christ died on the cross. The old covenant was finally obliterated in 70 AD. It's been almost 2,000 years and we're still quoting the old covenant? The Bible says to rightly divide God's word, we need to discern the difference between the old and the new. And like Jesus said, don't mix the two. Don't put new wine in old skins. It doesn't work. We are instructed to love one another, and in doing so, we've loved on Christ. But the opposite is also true. If we spread hatred and discord among people, we've done so towards Christ. Targeting individuals and preaching against them is counterproductive and not the approach or instruction that Christ took. Telling people they'll burn in hell for eternity if they don't embrace a loving God is counterproductive and is not the approach that Christ took. He loved and embraced all, especially those that represented our view of lower class or sinful individuals. The only ones he got a little indignant with were the religious ones. Kind of like what I'm doing now, big smiley face. So be a solution to the problem. Break the chain of hatred and discourse. Embrace who you are in Christ and allow him to live through you. I thought that was a great post. Then the comments began because he was actually poking the dragon. And some of the people that were posting in there, I knew a couple of them. One of them I grew up with. But it reminded me that there are people stuck in a very legalistic mindset from long ago. If you go to Sunday school as a kid and you never change your beliefs, or your understanding of God's love doesn't expand from what you were taught in Sunday school, there's a problem, a big problem. That means you love eating pablum or mushy baby food, and that is it. And you cannot digest, you can't even chew good food. That means you can't have good conversations with people. That's right. Eating pablum baby food is equivalent to not being able to have meaningful conversations with believers, even to disagree. Why can't we disagree and still be friends and have healthy respect and trust? It's probably because most believers are insecure in not only their theology, because they're relying on mommy and daddy's faith, or grandma and grandpa's faith, or their pastor's faith, or their church's faith, their denomination's faith, and not relying on the faith of Christ in you. That's why they're insecure. That's the one part. The other part, they're insecure in their own identity. They don't even know who they are. So be careful when you're fighting with people. Just don't fight. Don't argue. I should read my comment I wrote back. One guy, he listed a whole bunch of Bible verses to a comment I made, and then I'll read a Gordon MacDonald quote from there. You'll like this. So he blitzes me with all these Bible verses, and so I wrote back and I said, so-and-so, everything you wrote, I proclaimed and believed, but my perspective of God is getting bigger and better. Not going to lob a Bible verse grenade your way. Better to begin on what we do agree with first. Peace to you, bro. It was great. It was fun. So here's the Gordon MacDonald quote, and this has got nothing to do with what I want to share with you guys today. Welcome to listening to an ADHD guy. Hey, look, a squirrel. Yeah, I love it. All right. So Gordon MacDonald, in 1824 to 1905, he writes this. Love, as in capital L, love loves unto purity. Love has ever in view the absolute loveliness of that which it beholds. Therefore, all that is not beautiful in the beloved, all that comes between and is not of love's kind, must be destroyed. And our God is a consuming fire. Wow. I hope I get permission to do this. I don't know how to do this because they don't want me posting memes on Goma. I'll have to ask permission first, but maybe I'll just write the quote up and put it in here later. It's a pretty heavy quote. Something you need to ponder. So anyway, we'll get to that another time. All right. Hey, Kisty. Good morning, Kisty Gray. It's Paul Gray's wife. It's great to have you on here this morning. And Heidi, I have not met you, Heidi. Good morning and welcome. Great to have you on Grounds and Grace. Coffee grounds, that is. All right, let's get into some encouragement today. A couple of weeks back, we started this mini series. This live thing is not preaching per se. It's more sharing, teaching, encouraging, sharing my heart. If we do a series, we do a series. It's not because I totally planned it, although I do want to do a forgiveness series on here, because it's one of the most passionate series I've ever taught, and I'm teaching it right now on my radio show called Still Growing in Grace. So if you go to growingingrace.ca, I've begun already. I've got, I think, two sessions up, or I think it's two, maybe three. I'm not sure. I think it's two. But oh my goodness, that is a really, really exciting and an awesome series that I think you're going to grow in. I grow every time I teach it. Hey, good morning, Corey from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada. Love it, love it, love it. Haven't seen Ellen step into the group this morning yet. She must be sleeping in. So a couple of weeks back, we started a thing of what do we do when our plans don't go according to plan? What do we do when we get blindsided by life and things happen that we weren't expecting at all? And so we began the discussion talking about it becomes an opportunity to redirect your attention. That's one thing that we came up with, and I thought was pretty important. Then we talked about a perspective to have when things don't go according to plan. And you could even say, why don't things go according to God's plan? Well, if it's not going according to God's plan, then it wasn't God's plan. Do you ever think about that? It's not God's plan if it's not happening according to God's plan, because you had presumed it was God's plan, and therefore now you've raised and started an expectation, and that expectation is not being met, but that was never God's expectation. That was your expectation. It's funny, the conversations I have with people over and over and over and over and over, they come and they're upset that why is God doing this to them? Where is God? That's a big one. Where is God? I don't feel God. Let's talk about this. And it's simply reminding people. That's what the joy of being a minister is. And I'm not talking about clergy. I'm talking about being a minister of reconciliation. You are a minister of reconciliation. So am I. We are equal, all of us. Every one of us. So I love being a minister of reconciliation, reconciling people's thoughts to the way God thinks about them, because they need to wake up to that really good news. And then last week we talked about it's an opportunity to trust, and we began talking through some stories. We talked about the story of Joseph, which is one of my most favorite stories in the Bible, where this guy goes through pretty much hell on earth, gets sold and is in prison. In fact, he was in jail for 13 years before he becomes cupbearer to the king. And then when he realizes, this is all God at work, he names his kids certain names. I forget, I think it's Messanana or something like that, his one kid. And that name means something like the bitterness has left me, or I'm not going to remember the pain, or something like that. So you're not going to forget an event, folks. You may not have as much pain associated with it. And that was a great place that Joseph came to. And then we looked at the story of the cupbearer and the king. I love this, really cool. Just a moment of if you take a look at the two guys that have dreams that come to Joseph, and the the cupbearer says, "Hey, I had this dream, blah blah blah." Joseph says, "Well, in 3 days you're going to come before the king. You'll be released, and that's amazing." And the baker says, "Ooh, cool, that was a great predicament. So, hey, what's my dream?" And he says, "Well, in 3 days, you're going to be impaled on a post, and then you'll be done." He didn't like his prediction very much at all, but all three happened. But there's a really cool connection between those two. If you didn't hear last week, so here's a little sneaker tidbit that I think is really cool. It's a picture of Jesus in the Old Testament in that story of Joseph in jail. In jail, folks. God is revealing himself in the crisis of your life, in even the worst and darkest place that you think is dark. But there's light there. Always has been. You just can't see it all the time. So here's the cool part. So the cupbearer, what was his job? Drinking the wine before the king, so the king doesn't die. So the wine speaks. The wine brings life. The wine releases. The wine speaks. And it was the cupbearer that spoke to the king that released Joseph. And that's what Jesus did 3 days later. So 3 days represents the Easter story. The wine represents Christ and represents the power of it speaking and releasing. That's a beautiful picture. And then the cupbearer, it's very interesting. 3 days. He dies. And he's impaled on a post. Bread, the bread of life, Jesus, 3 days later. I'm sorry. Don't you see it? I see it. I think it's amazing. I just love that. All right. How's that for a great recap? Julius Roy, good morning. And of course, Jerry Richardson. Oh my goodness, Jerry. Great to see you. Jerry is, he goes to Hope Fellowship here at my church in Ontario. I'm really glad you joined in this morning. I'm not going to recap everything. You have to go back, but because we're live. Okay, let's continue. So what do we do when our plans don't go according to plan? And we're wrapping up with this idea of it's an opportunity to trust. And so when things go sideways, last night I had a family that not connected to my church, but to another group of people I'm connected with in a baseball league. And the one man had a grandson born yesterday. 4 hours later, the grandson went into convulsions and seizures, and they had to rush him to a special medical hospital that dealt with children. And they're still dealing with it. And I wrote to him because he asked for prayer. And I said, of course I'm praying, but God's not absent from this situation. Your Heavenly Papa is deeply involved and entangled in this. If you look for it, you will see it. Yeah. When we have trouble, it is an opportunity for us to trust. If you come at this with a trusting mindset, you're going to find God's fingerprint or DNA all over the situation. If you come at it from, oh, shoot, what did I do wrong? God's punishing me. I didn't tithe this week, so now God's got to get it back through a blown tire, and I got to pay the AAA company for whatever. Like, no. I grew up with all that crap. Christian rules and procedures is what crap stands for. I grew up with all that, and that's a guilt trip. So if you're training your mind to look for trust, moving ahead, you're going to experience a different way to walk through difficulties. If you don't cultivate that, you're going to always be second guessing, wondering, frustrated, confused, depressed, lots of emotions that are going to totally soak you up there. It's terrible. So let's take a look at another story that I thought was really, really cool, where trust had to be learned. Abraham and Sarah. This is a tough one, but yet this is real. Just because it's like a 3,000-year-old story, it doesn't mean it can't touch our hearts or we can't identify with some key elements of it. So Abraham and Sarah moved. He moved away from his heritage of idol worship. They couldn't have a baby, so they're wishing for a kid. Like, it's embarrassing not to have a kid. Like, whose fault is it, dad or the wife? They don't know. Well, Sarah says, well, God did promise something, I guess. So why don't you go sleep with the handmaid here? And I wonder if that's where they got the handmaid's tale. I'm kidding. But Sarah says, go and sleep with the handmaid, and let's help God out. Have you ever helped God out answer a prayer that you've prayed? Have you ever thought you pushed a little bit and helped manipulate in order to get the answer that you wanted? Do you do that? I've done that many times. They tried to help God out. And that was not God's plan. And Abraham had a firstborn, Ishmael. Well, many, many years later, when it was impossible for Sarah to have a baby, she has a baby. Talk about plans changing. And she got nasty. Like Sarah, man, when she had her own kid, she turned on Ishmael and his mom. Like, it was bad to the bone. It was not good. And so Hagar and Ishmael are sent away, because if you want to see the difference between those two, law and grace cannot exist. They tried to legalistically help God out, and Ishmael was born. But grace was the gift that Sarah received. Yeah, it's a beautiful picture. Grace and law cannot exist. And so those two are sent away, and that's where many believers stop in the story. They don't bother looking at the next part. And do you realize, for all these individuals in North America, the Bible-believing belt, okay, we got Bible belts in Canada. The USA has Bible belts galore. And I believe far more conservative believers have a very hateful rhetoric towards the Muslim people. And they forget that they both have Father Abraham. They forget that Father Abraham fathered Ishmael. He's the one who began the whole Muslim nation thing. That's where it comes from. And God says something powerful in the Old Testament about Hagar and Ishmael, that he loved them too. But so why do we hate them? Well, I think it's ignorance. I think it's because we think in dualistic thinking. We think God hates Muslims or people different from us, because we have this exclusive mindset. This is where God wants to change our mind. Jesus came to change our minds to become inclusive, to recognize first that we're included, but so is everyone else. We're all God's children. Everyone is. Paul said this even on Mars Hill when he spoke to non-believers. He said, we're all God's children. And he's speaking to non-believers. There's only one source. There's only one life, people. This past Sunday, I alluded to this belief that a number of years ago, I came into a grace community called the Exchange Life Group. They now call themselves Galatians 3:16 or something like that. I don't know what they call it, but they're good people. But for a while, I kind of shunned them as I began to learn what the message of inclusion was. I saw them as legalists, and I had a very, I think, unhealthy mindset now looking back. Now I'm starting to see, wait a minute, they're my friends. I love a lot of those people. I'm great. But in that mindset, in that camp, we were taught that we had dead spirits. Think about that. We had dead spirits? How can you have a dead spirit? There is no such thing. How can our spirits be dead? The only way that concept can fit is if you realize it's only in your mind, not your actual spirit, not literal, because our spirit is our life. It's in union with Christ, and there is only one life. So if you're living and you're not, if you're going to play the argument, if you're saying you're spiritually dead and your spirit is dead to God, and when you say the prayer, then it becomes alive, then what is keeping you alive? And if it's not Jesus, then you must be an independent God. That's, if you're going to go that route, that's exactly what's going on, and it's baloney. So Abraham and Sarah got blessed galore with a son, and their plans changed. They tried to help God out. It turned into disaster. Folks, try not to help God out. He doesn't need your help. In fact, Brad Jerzak said something the other day. He was in it's a very short clip. I loved it. He was talking to his archbishop, and he was saying something like, God needs justice, and he judges well, but God needs justice. And the archbishop leaned into Brad Jerzak and said, God needs? That's heresy. God needs nothing. It's us who seem to need that stuff. Oh my goodness. Just think about that one. You're getting a whole bunch of little nuggets today to think about. So listen to this. This is coming back to, no, we're going to go, sorry, switching from Abraham and Sarah. We're going now to Mary and Joseph. Another story of what do you do when plans change? Well, there's some serious plans that changed for, for Mary and Joseph. First of all, Joseph wanted to marry Mary, but turned out she's pregnant. And so his plans kind of changed. And so he decided, I got to get rid of this girl, but I love her too much. Like, he really loved this girl. Like, he was a good man. And so what, in agony, what do I do? So, you know what, I'm going to do it quiet and privately. And then an angel of God came and revealed a better story to him. His plans changed again. Okay? Again. So boom, boom. We got two plans that changed. Then they were forced to move. Another plans change, and they were forced to Bethlehem, and that's where the birth of Jesus came. The angelic visitation came, and boom, the plans changed again, and they had to move to Egypt. Boom, 2 years later, whatever it was, 3, 5, who knows? I don't know what it says. I forget. But they were having to move back to Bethlehem, and they moved back. So then, from what we're guessing in the story, we're not sure, but it's likely that Joseph died not long after that, and at least by the time Jesus shows up as an adult, Joseph is gone, and mom is single parenting. We don't know. You got lots of guessing you can do. Either way, the plans change. Relationships around us change. And God stepped into their plans to constantly remind them. Now, I've always asked God, can I have an angelic visitation? Can I just like a 3-second appearance? I would just be so cool. I would believe in, and I would never doubt ever again if I could just see this. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I sure have many, many, many times. And yet, God's already put His Spirit in me. I don't need that impartation. I want it, but I don't need it. My spirit already resonates. If it's about faith growing, well, that's the faith of Christ, not my faith. There is no such thing as my faith, even though you can see that in Scripture, but all faith given to us by Christ is His faith, and it's infused with ours, and it grows and matures. God's in charge of those things. Nothing ever occurs to God. We've talked about that a couple of weeks back. Nothing ever occurs to God. You can trust Him. You can trust Him in your crisis. This couple, this family that's dealing with this baby crisis. Oh my goodness! Just pray for them. I think it's Micah, baby Micah. So Heavenly Father, I just pray for a great result today for baby Micah. I had a buddy of mine in church here. His name's Eldon. He had this awesome prayer on a Sunday morning. He was just going through distress, and all he could pray was, for so and so, dear God. That was his prayer. And it was deep. It was awesome. I love that. Joanne Roberts, good morning. Great having you on board. So let's listen to what Hebrews 6:18-20 says as a reminder to us. It's impossible for God to lie, for we know that His promise and His vow will never change. And now we have run into His heart to hide ourselves in His faithfulness. This is where we find His strength and comfort, for He empowers us to seize what has already been established ahead of time. Oh my goodness. If this was a Pentecostal church, I'd be expecting some screaming and little likes on heart, scream, laugh all over the place. All those things should be flying just by reading that. Absolutely incredible. He goes on, we have this certain hope, like a strong, unbreakable anchor, holding our souls to God Himself. Our anchor of hope is fastened to the mercy seat, which sits in the heavenly realms beyond the sacred threshold. And where Jesus, our forerunner, has gone in before us, He is now and forever our royal priest like Melchizedek. Wow, that is really good news. So what do we do? What do we do then? Last point. What do we do when our plans don't go according to plan? We don't. It's an opportunity not to assume. When He chooses a different option than last time, this is big. If we take a look, I'm just going to look at my notes to make sure. You know what? I'm going to bring this to next week. So next week, oh, you're going to like this one. I'm going to tease you. I think you'll like this. Did you know that David faced another giant that he could not slay? That's all I'll say. We're going to cover that next week and what we can learn from it. I think next week's gonna be really good. Now that I'm seeing this, I go, oh my goodness, this is awesome. You guys are gonna love this. You're listening from Newfoundland. Oh my goodness, Joanne. There's another person on here right now. Corey. He's also from, he's from New Brunswick. Sorry. Oops. Never mind. But anyway, hey, great to see you out there. Next week, we're going to find out who this other giant is that David could not slay and the lessons we can learn from this. So when blindsides happen, what do we do? And then we'll do a full summary next week at the end of the key things we can learn from when our plans don't go according to plan. And anyway, I hope that was encouraging today. I love that Hebrews one. Oh my goodness. I'm probably going to post that too. So I'll find out about that George McDonald post. Otherwise, I'm going to post it on, I'll get it posted. You'll see it somewhere. Just if you're a friend of mine, maybe I'll post it on my page. You can just go there. I can't get in trouble for that. But that's it. So this morning, peace to you. See everyone as included. See all as loved. See all as forgiven, even if they don't know it. May our eyes change. May our lenses change. May we see as Christ sees, for Christ is in us and is seeing through us. We possess the mind of Christ. We have the mind of Christ. Yes, you're possessed. You're possessed by Christ. In union, in oneness with Christ. Start to see with his eyes. And the only way to do that is to grow in intimacy. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's it, folks. I hope you have a fantastic day. And it's been a joy to be with you today. And we'll catch you next week on Grounds and Grace. Don't forget to check out growingingrace.ca for the weekly radio show called Still Growing in Grace. And it's called that because none of us have arrived. We are all still growing in grace. Till next time.